I made 2 deliveries, one for $11.75 and one for $10.50. Maybe drove a total of, I'm going to say 14 miles. I'm headed back to the Art and Fair Mall area because that's where I know business good in the afternoon and evening on a Saturday or Sunday. And glad to have you along for the ride. Just a pretty typical DoorDash type of day. 90 degrees for a high, maybe 92. Not going to get rich today, but making money. I wish I had a car that got better gas mileage, but it is what it is. Yeah. The problem with this job is you drive by too cheap a car, you drive them into the ground too quickly and end up buying more cars during the year than you really want to. You can make money, but the problem is that Sacramento, California is just too expensive to live. If I weren't getting married and moving to the Dominican Republic for love, I'd be moving out of the country for economic reasons anyway. So let's just go along for the ride and have fun. I can't play music because everything's copyrighted, so you just have to listen to my dulcet tones. Well, let's see. I was born in Rochester, New York. Actually, I was born in a place called Merrick, New York, but the hospital I was born in was in Rochester. I was born on December 13th in the 1950s, early 1950s. My mom at the time was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was an assistant principal at the local school, which, I don't know, but I think it went from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. It wasn't a large village. I think the population doubled during the summer because they had so many people that we now call immigrants. Back then they were called migrants, and basically they were the people that came into the town to work on the crops and pick the crops for the fall harvest. What they grew there, I don't know. It's upstate New York. Look it up. I have no clue what they were doing. I do know my dad had a penchant for coming into work a little late because he loved to watch the crop dusters dusting the fields with chemicals to kill the pests that would eat them. I'm sure right now there's plenty of the workforce that picked them that's dead or suffering cancer because of those pesticides that were laid on the crops. We live and we learn in this world. But remember, that was the early 1950s. We left Merrick, New York behind and traveled down the New York State Thruway, or maybe up the New York State Thruway, to a place called Buffalo, New York, as my dad got offered a job as the principal of a brand new elementary school. And my dad, if you knew him, he was the perfect guy to be a principal of an elementary school. He had unlimited patience with children. He and my mom both loved little kids. And my mom got a job, even though she had a master's in elementary ed, because she had myself and my younger sister to watch out for. She took a job as a first grade teacher in a private school. And they gave her some flexibility with having my daughter or my sister around. And I was in elementary school at that time anyway. So we moved to Buffalo. rented a house for a year, rented a duplex, that's two houses sandwiched together on one frame, for 3 years. Then we moved to a single family home right on the New York State Thruway, right at the toll barrier in a place called Williamsville for 2 more years. At which time the people were talking about selling the home that we were renting, and we moved into Snyder, New York, which was the next little village over, just a suburb of Buffalo, they all were, and bought a home. I think it cost $16,000 at the time. It was a 3-bedroom, 5 different levels. It was, up 3 steps, down 3 steps, up 5 steps, up 3 more steps type thing. And it was a sunken family room, which was below ground. Our home didn't have central air conditioning, but I'll tell you what, that family room there, during the evenings, was nice and cool because it was the ground below 5 feet underground is always 55 degrees, and this thing was down about 4 feet, so it was nice and cool in there. A little clammy, but not bad. And that's where I grew up. Basically, most of my memories are from that house and that village. I went to Smallwood Elementary School, Amherst Junior High School, and Amherst Senior High School. I was smart enough to get straight A's, and I did for a while. But my interest in my education kind of faded. My sister graduated with a degree in elementary ed. I think she even had her master's, but for me it was racing and cars and fun, and the Vietnam War was looming in the future, and me and all my friends really figured we were probably going to go to Vietnam and die, so our interest was mainly enjoying life. I wasn't into drugs. I wasn't into alcohol. I might have been drunk once in my life. I might have been stoned 2 or 3 times. But considering it was the 60s and early 70s, that's pretty good. I had long hair. I wore flamboyant clothes. And until I was 17, I was shy as hell. Didn't have a girlfriend, didn't date. My sister was a cheerleader. Because I was 2 years older than her, and my folks had a station wagon, I drove around all the cheerleaders. And they sat in the back seat and the way back seat of the station wagon and made fun of all the coolest guys in our high school. Which, of course, prompted me, not being one of the coolest guys, one of the athletes or jocks, as they call them, to have an incredible inferiority complex. So I played my little cars and my race cars and my sports car and my motorcycles and kind of left the dating scene alone. And I'd always had a picture from the time I was 13 or 14 of my perfect girlfriend. And of course, when you're 13 or 14, you aren't thinking of your perfect wife or the mother of your children or her personality or her values. All you're thinking of is what she looks like. Well, I had this picture, and slender, 5 foot to 5'5", big brown eyes, dark hair. That was it. That was my dream. I could sketch her if I had to, but of course I couldn't draw. But and that sustained me. Like I said, I was married twice. not to that girl either time, and I probably didn't feel the loss I would have felt if I hadn't held on to that image of that young lady all my life. So let's go fast forward till I'm mid 55, let's say 57, 58 years old. My daughter at this time is about 15. I'm on my second wife. Nice lady, great mom. But she's okay with me, probably would have stayed married to me for the rest of our lives, but she wasn't in love with me anymore. Hadn't been in love with me for a while. We didn't do anything together. We weren't really involved in each other's lives, other than when it came to our daughter. And I had my world, she had hers. I had started seeing professional young ladies because I couldn't rightly date anybody. I was married and didn't really have any intention of getting divorced. And I knew if she knew I was seeing somebody, she'd divorce me. But she really didn't want to know whether I was seeing somebody, basically. And I had a number of experiences. I had 3 what we'd call sugar babies. In other words, I helped them with the rent for a cheap apartment and the utilities. In exchange, they were very friendly with me a few times a week. And actually, I contemplated with 2 of them, if I did get divorced, marrying them. Now, these girls, it would have been interesting to get married to either one of them. Actually, one of them came back a few years later. She'd gone to work in Nevada at a legal brothel and came back with a bun in the oven speech, and not really, well, she told me she didn't know the father, but whether she did or didn't, I never checked into it, and asked if I would give her a ring. And she knew I'd be really good for helping her raise her child, and she knew she was needing a lot of help to grow up herself and to raise her child. And at the time she was, let's say, 25 by then. But fortunately, I had met the girl of my dreams. Yes, the girl I'd imagined from the time I was 14 on suddenly appeared on Facebook one day. I had an online modeling agency. I was trying to help a friend of mine who's Haitian, and so we were going to put together a calendar with 6 Haitian girls. A lot of Haitian teenagers had moved into the Dominican Republic after the earthquake in Haiti that killed millions, displaced millions. And we're going to pick 6 Haitian girls, 6 Dominican girls, do a calendar. I sent them all $50 a piece for the rights to their photos, and couldn't really get any interest on anybody buying the calendar, so I never bothered to make them. But I sent some money over to an orphanage in Haiti, kind of make everybody feel good. At which juncture I had lots of young ladies from that island that Haiti and the Dominican Republic shared, telling me they were in love with me. And of course, having been around this enough, I knew they were in love with me, and they knew I knew they were in love with me. But it's always a good open line to tell an old guy, if you're a beautiful young woman, that you are in love with him. It's a real icebreaker. But I considered some of them were very beautiful, but I was still involved here. And one day my now ex-wife came back from visiting her mom in Ohio and told me that she wanted her own checking account, which I don't really care. What precipitated is she went to the store one day before she left, and there wasn't any money in the account. I gambled. I gambled to excess on occasion in life. And I spent money on other things. Sometimes I paid bills with it. And so when she said she wanted a checking account, I said, that's fine. I've got a 21-year-old girlfriend. And that was the beginning of the end of our marriage. It took about 2 weeks for her to calm down and realize that, as I told her, you haven't loved me for years. What are we doing staying married? You can do better. I don't like this. And she started thinking about the fact that I was 12 years older than her and she'd have to take care of me. And she didn't really like the thought of taking care of me when I was old. And so she agreed that we should part ways. And my daughter's only request was if we just hold off another year and a half while she was graduating high school, because it was too much trauma for her. And, you know, since we didn't hate each other nothing, we agreed. Allowed us to ease out of our marriage and get a mutually agreeable divorce. And quite a funny scene in the courtroom. We were getting our divorce at the same time as about 6 other couples were. And my ex and I were really pretty hilarious. She played an excellent straight woman to my comic routine. And we even had lunch afterwards. And so anyways, now I was absolutely free to get married again. And I didn't know quite what to do. I knew I financially couldn't afford to get married again. I knew women my age who were secure financially really had no interest in me at all. And that they and I had no more former wife. And then I realized I was going to need to be in love with somebody that I couldn't marry. And suddenly, the younger sister of one of the models that I planned on putting in the calendar, her photo came back to me because it was the exact girl I dreamed of. And I never told her at that juncture when I first saw her photo anything. I checked out her profile. She was engaged to a local guy from the village. And I thought, you know, just file it. And I wasn't thinking much, and she contacted me and said she wanted to be a model too. And I asked her how old she was. It went something like she said almost 16. And I realized that meant she was 15. Might have been 14. And engaged. And I said, nah. And he said, well, send me $30. I want a dress. And I thought it was very ballsy of her. And I'm from New York State. We like ballsy people. So I said, okay. And she said, make it 50. I want some heels to go with it. Which I thought was adorable. So I sent $50 to her mom because she wasn't even old enough to have an ID. So now her mom knows I sent her $50. Well, it's pretty harmless. And every once in a while she texts me and say, my fiance is going out tonight without me. And my response would be, well, that's not right. He'd be crazy to leave you at home, but he is 19 and you're 15, so you can't go to places he can go in the Dominican Republic. public, and he probably wants to hang out with his friends. So, although I feel bad for you, I can see why he wants to go out with his friends. And then she texted me and say that it was her birthday coming up, and her birthday's 9 days before mine. Well, except for the 45 years that passed between my original birthday and her original birthday. And so I'd send her some cash, and so she could buy herself something for her birthday. Same at Christmas time, I'd send her something, or she'd graduate high school, I'd send her something. And so now let's fast forward till I'm about to get divorced, or I get divorced, and she's 18, and I check on her profile. I hadn't talked to her in probably 5 or 6 months, and she's no longer engaged. And then I see her in a photo with a guy that is not as old as me, but he's definitely older than her. And I thought, what do I got to lose? So I just said, I'm in love with you. And she replied, what? And I said, listen, you're the girl I dreamed of all my life, and I've been in love with you all of my life. Well, I didn't know you really existed, and now I know you really exist, and now you're no longer engaged, and you're going to college, and I know your family's not rich, so here's the deal. I would like you to have permission for me to be in love with you, and I will pay for your college. And her college is about $80 a month. And she says, you're kidding. And I said, no. And she says, what do I have to do? Of course, thinking she'd have to send me nude photos or put my face on her Facebook page as her boyfriend or something like that. I said, no, I want to use you so that when girls that I'm dating here, and I told her I was dating professional dates escorts, when they see me, they'll realize I'm already involved, and they will treat me as they would treat somebody that there's no potential future with. They can't suck any extra money out of me, which is what happens when you date an escort and you're a single guy versus when you date an escort and you're married or intimately involved. And she says, so I don't have to tell you I love you or nothing? I said, no. I said, of course not. I said, just once a month, send me a text, tell me how you're doing in school, or some little newsy thing about your family or something like that. Her family was the center of her universe after the fiancé left her universe. And I said, you're free to date because I'm going to see the girls I've been seeing. And when you do find somebody that's important to you, that being my girlfriend online would interfere with, let me know and I'll free you from the responsibility of being my online love interest. And she says, you're kidding. And I said, go down to Western Union. I am sending $300 for your next 3 months of classes. And she went to Western Union and came back, and it was in her name now because she was 18. And she said, you really sent me $300? I said, yeah. I said, do we have an agreement? And she says, yeah. And from that day forward to this present day, she has texted me virtually every single day. And that wasn't required. But I really appreciated it. And I had intended to take a little break. Obviously, I gave her $300. I wasn't going to date anybody that month. And the truth of the matter is, after that, until this very day, which is 7 years and 3 months later, I haven't seen anybody. Her interest in me was enough to keep me satisfied and keep me happy. And of course, I've got my daughter, and now I've got my granddaughter. But about 2 years later, so I'd have been 4 years in. Oh, that very year, she was mentioning her dad didn't have a cell phone. And I thought, well, that's not right. You know, you should be able to get a hold of her. And I bought her a cell phone. And so I sent her enough money to buy him an inexpensive cell phone. And she said very quiet, and it turns out he is. And after I sent him the cell phone, he texted me or messaged me on Facebook and said, "Thank you for the cell phone. Everybody wants something." Well, I have to agree with him. And so I told him, yes, you're right. I said, I am paying for your daughter's college so she doesn't need a man, me or anybody else. In the interim, I'd given her, I'd asked her why she'd never smiled in her photos, and she said she had a crooked tooth from sucking her thumb as a child. And it turned out it was off to the side. And I said, well, why don't you get it fixed? And she said it was too expensive. I said, what is too expensive? And she says, I don't even know. And so I said, well, go find out. And a couple days later, she said, it's for the whole treatment and the braces and all the follow-ups till the braces are off, it's $700, or the Dominican equivalent of $700. And I said, go to Western Union, there's $700 waiting for you, go fix your braces, or go get your braces. So anyways, at that juncture, I told her dad, not only did I put her through school, I said I've given her braces to straighten her teeth so that she can smile and flirt with other guys and find the guy that she deserves. I said, in the meantime, while I'm waiting for her to find that perfect gentleman, and you're helping her find that perfect guy, I said, am I allowed to continue to help your daughter? And he said, yes. And I said, you have my blessing to find a better guy than me. I said, I must tell you, though, if when she's done with school, you haven't found somebody better than me, I'm going to come over and propose to her and let her decide herself. And he said that was fair. From that moment on, he never bothered to try help her find anybody else. Her mother contacted me a number of times telling me how great it was. Her sister contacted me a number of times telling how much she appreciated me helping her sister and making her sister happy and giving her the kind of life that she had only dreamed of. And obviously at this juncture I was sending her more than just for school. I was basically giving her enough money that she could concentrate on her education and still have a life. Still go out to the disco, go on vacation locally once in a while, which is $200 for a group weekend with the entire community there. And it's just been really good. And so anyways, after 2 years, she contacted me one day and said, would you really consider marrying me and coming over here and having 3 children? And I said, wow. I said, that's out of nowhere. Are you in love with me? And she said, no, we've never met in person, so I can't really say I'm in love with you, but you're very nice, you're very sweet. I've talked to your daughter on a number of occasions. She says, if you don't mind old and ugly, he's a hell of a catch. And she says, I'd like to have a hell of a catch for the change. Because over here the guys cheat on you. And she said that my daughter told her that he hasn't seen anybody and he doesn't seem interested in seeing anybody else. And my daughter thanked her for making me happy. And so I said, okay. And we kicked it down the road for a couple of years. And then one day I was feeling stupid, and I told her, I said, look it. I said, you really need a guy your age You can grow old together. You can have the future you want with. And I said, go find him. In the meantime, I'm going to keep taking care of you just like I am. Once you find the guy, I'm going to continue to pay for your schooling until you've got your degree. And didn't hear from her back for a while, about 2-3 hours. And then I received a text telling me that no, I couldn't back out on the deal. And I said, why was that? And she says, well, it turns out that I started thinking about not talking to you every day. And it made me really, really sad. And it made me realize that I am in love with you. And I really do want you to be my husband and the father of my children and spend the rest of our lives together, me trying to catch up with you growing old. And I said, well, I'll step up my game if that's what you want. But I said I needed to hear that from you. So anyways, I'm going to take a break here and try to get some orders.